If you look at the top 20 companies today, they didn't exist 20 years ago. There was no Google, there was no Facebook, most of these companies didn't exist, right? The smarter ones are the ones who will destroy themselves before somebody else comes and destroys, right? Which is what I call unlearning, right? It is the first and the most important task. We all pick up stuff from everywhere, everybody we meet. All our lives we've picked up stuff and we carry it with us, and that makes our personality, right? Once in a while you need to do that cleansing. You need to eradicate everything you have and learn new stuff, or else there's going to be no space for new stuff because your previous experience, your biases, all of that will come, right? That people don't do. Yeah. And then they wonder why things are not happening for them, right? Because they're doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. That was Darshan M, the ex-CEO of Deccan Chargers, the IPL cricket team, and also the ex-CEO of the Deccan Chronicle Group. We talk about a lot of things in this episode. First, we go into his journey, how he was a college dropout and how he dabbled his toes in various industries ranging from media to news media to sports and entertainment and whatnot, and got him to be the well-versed and well-equipped entrepreneur that he is today. Okay, so there are a lot of things that we talk about in this episode, but the main message or the underlying message is that you need to constantly reinvent yourself and keep yourself updated. If you are nimble, success will truly find you. And talking about success, he also mentions that you can't go looking for success, but success will eventually find you if you're truly fulfilled with what you're doing and if you're happy with what you're doing. So the simplest advice is to keep smiling, be happy with what you're doing, and if you're not happy with what you're doing, then maybe find something that is truly fulfilling and gets you to wake up with the sort of vigor that you need to wake up with. Darshan is probably one of the most experienced people we have had on the show, and I guess that's why I truly learned a lot from the episode, and I feel that you have a lot to uncover and take away too. Okay, so before we get into the episode though, are you enjoying the show so far? Is this something that is motivating you or something that you're looking forward to? Then there are a couple of ways that you can support the show, and it only takes a few seconds. You can either share the show with your friends or your family members or anyone who you feel would benefit from the show. It could either be someone who is looking for the right sort of inspiration or motivation, or just someone you feel could probably look at benefiting any form whatsoever from either listening or watching the episodes. Or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, then what you can do to support the show is simply leave a rating and a review. It's a small task from your side that will go a long way because it helps in getting the show in front of more people, more viewers, more listeners. And at the same time, when people do find the show, taking a look at the review or rating will really give them the sort of reassurance that this show is really worth their time. Now, if you don't have Apple Podcasts or you don't want to talk to your family or friends, then what you can simply do is open up an app that we all have, which is WhatsApp. What you can do is just share the episode over WhatsApp stories, either the audio or the video version, depending on where you're tuning in. And it's a very simple way to get it in front of your folks, friends, family members, whoever else is connected with you over WhatsApp. So yeah, that's another thing you can simply do. Okay, so that concludes the intro. Let's get right into the show. This is episode 14 with Darshan M. We have just a lot to uncover, a lot to dive deep into. And I think we had a long conversation ourselves, right? And I can just imagine, at least I can tell you till now, the kind of guests who have come here, are relatively on the younger side. People who don't have this sort of experience under their belt, to be very honest. But our friend Sal obviously was very insistent. And when I took a look at your profile as well, I was like, you know what, this is just great stuff. And I think when we started conversing as well, we got into a very different sort of territory, and we got into areas which people don't normally talk about. And I think areas which people need to talk about as well. And I think maybe I wouldn't say negligent, but people just tend to think, you know what, I know all of that. Philosophy is all just a very, boring subject. But even with what you've written with your latest book too, I think there's just a lot to uncover. So let's maybe start off with what you're doing right now, and then slowly maybe get down to how you got here.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah. Cool then. So yeah, what are you up to these days?
So I guess you can call me an author now.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah.
I'm writing quite a bit.
Right.
I always wanted to write. I mean, I used to write as a kid, but never got around to writing. But the lockdown gave me time, and so I started writing. If I have to tell you how did I get here, I think the story is that I've always reinvented my life, right? And I believe that all of us need to reinvent ourselves regularly, right? It's like people update your software in your laptop, in your phone so regularly, but they don't update themselves at all, right? And very early on in my career, I realized that if you're going to be in one industry, right? Imagine if you're going to meet the same clients over and again, and you keep talking about, did you see this movie? Is it raining or the traffic?
The same small talk.
Yeah, the guy's not going to want to see you again, right? So you have to reinvent yourself. You have to be interesting, right? And that's what I've done, right? So I looked at the lockdown, the businesses were down, everything was shut, right? I said, what do I do, right? Let's do something interesting, right? And actually, I had no plans to write a self-help book. I was writing something else. I had a plan to write something else. And the lockdown was like a very interesting space because I was actually having fun when it began, because it was suddenly a break from work. You didn't need to drive. You didn't need to go to office. You didn't need to dress up. You didn't need to shave if you didn't feel like. There was no help, nobody coming, so you could have breakfast when you want, do what you want, right? But when I started talking to people, because you had a lot of free time and people are calling, and suddenly everybody wanted to be in touch, right? During the lockdown, my schoolmates formed a group, my college mates formed a group. So people I haven't been in touch for 20 plus years have suddenly all come back in touch, right? But as I kept talking to people, I realized that for a lot of people, they were very anxious. They were very stressed. And for us entrepreneurs, we go to hell and back so many times, right? So for us, it was another day in office. But seeing the way people were reacting and the way people were talking about the experience, I was a little concerned. And then when Sushant Singh Rajput committed suicide, my wife was kind of very shaken up, and she was like, why would he want to do it? And that got me thinking that who knows how many other people look happy from the outside, but they're going through hell inside. And now with isolation, right, they're going to feel even more lonelier, right? And that's why I got down to writing this, because I said, at least whatever learnings I've had in my life, right? It's not like I've not had my weak moments and I haven't thought of stupid thoughts, right? So I said, can I share it with people? And if it helps even one person, right? Why not? Right. And I do know that even now, post the lockdowns lifted, in quite a few corporates, I don't want to name a company, but I know in one company, in 1 week, 10 people had committed suicide. Wow. Right? Which means there is an issue, right? People are stressed. There is probably a pandemic of mental health, right? Which is more prevalent than even COVID, right? And it needs help. And that's why I wrote this book. And I hope people will read it and benefit from it. And I've written it also in a way where it's more like an exercise. So in each chapter, you have some
practicality to it.
You have to do some evaluations. You have to answer some questions, right? So the ones who will actually benefit are the ones who will reread it, go back to those questions, answer them honestly, and then act on it, right?
Right.
And so that's what I'm doing now. The next book is nearly done.
Oh, okay.
So
I have another one
coming
in the pipeline.
Yeah, but I think we will release it next year, probably in March or April.
Again, self-help?
No.
Yeah, that was my question.
That's leadership book
Okay.
from my experience with the Deccan Chargers.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
And I thought it was time to share that story.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into something that a lot of people connect with, which is IPL, right?
Correct.
Indians and cricket. Although I'm honestly not one of them. I don't know. I've never really been a big fan of cricket, but I think IPL has, let's say, started catering to a very wide set of audience. And I think what IPL has done with cricket is just incredible. I think they've just literally put us on the map for so many reasons, right? And I think we should definitely get down to that. A lot of people are probably watching, listening to this to understand, what happened there. And I think the year you took over, or your team took over, you guys won. Yes. If I'm not wrong.
For that, they have to buy my book.
Yeah, of course.
What I'll tell you though is, what most people don't know is I'm not a cricket fan myself.
Okay.
And before the IPL, I didn't even watch cricket. Okay. I used to find it very boring sport, especially Test cricket. I could never understand how anybody would sit and watch something for 5 days and still have no result, right? And I remember once in one of those conferences, a speaker spoke about cricket, and he said it's a very perfect sport for India because it's like a caste system, your batsmen are Brahmins, your bowlers are Kshatriyas, then your fielders are Shudras, it's
Wow.
built that way, and that's why Indians love it.
Wow.
Right? So I never liked cricket before IPL, honestly, right? And I was able to do my job because I didn't have any emotional influence in my decision making, right? I was not in awe of any cricketer or anything. So I was not a fanboy trying to keep them happy. I called a spade, and I got things done, right? But what IPL has done definitely is it's given cricket a new life, because cricket otherwise anyway was a sport that was played in hardly 7-8 countries, and it was dying, right? Yeah. It was losing younger audiences to shorter form of entertainment, right? Yeah. In the end, if you look at it, we live in what I call the headlines generation. We don't have time to read the whole paper. You read the headlines and you move on. You're distracted continuously with an influx of information, right? So today, if you are BCCI and you want to reach out to your audience, you're not competing with football or motorsport. You're competing with movie, with Netflix, with everything.
Entertainment
right?
itself.
And IPL was also competing with, let's say, going out for lunch, dinner, right? So 2020 as a format gave cricket, that opportunity to be relevant for this day and age. And the right mix of entertainment, cheerleaders, the way they put it together, made it a wholesome family entertainment, right? So for a family, whether they go for a movie or they watch an IPL match, it was a good trade-off. And that's why it worked.
It still is working, right? I mean, to some extent.
Today it is what? $7-8 billion valuation. It's one of the largest, it's in the sporting leagues of the world, right? If you take the top 10 in the world, it's there. It's right there with EPL and NFL and NBA, which is incredible, right? And it's out of India.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have ever believed India would create something that would go there. I remember at the end of the first season, Scott Styris was telling me that after all these years, also his father kept asking him when you're going to get a real job, right? Because in New Zealand, if you're a cricketer, it's nothing great, right? If you're a rugby player, you're great.
Yeah.
Right? But he told me something that after the IPL, right, a lot of young kids who still haven't decided about their career, but they're into athletics and they're fit, are thinking about cricket. So as we speak, there may be a small kid, 10-year-old living somewhere in New Zealand or England who's dreaming of one day playing for Royal Challengers Bangalore. Think about it. Right? Which is very different from we all growing up saying we want to one day play for Man U or whatever, right? It's different that now the world is looking at India and saying they want to
be here.
And that's what IPL's done.
Yeah, that's great. And there's no denying that Test match has a very, let's say, constricted, a very narrow set of audience. And the game has pretty much been the same since God knows how long. And people who have always liked Test matches would still like Test matches today. And the same with international 50-hour games as well. But with what IPL has done, I think, like you said, it's not just given people new dreams. At the same time, it's also opened up a very different set of or a couple of hours of entertainment itself, right? Like you said, the trade-off is not just between sports. It's also between anything else in the entertainment industry, and everyone's looking forward to what IPL has in store for them for a couple of months every year. And then you notice there are other leagues coming out of this, like Kabaddi and a lot of other leagues. And I think, if I'm not wrong, you also worked on something else in the racing vertical, right? So we'll obviously get down to that. So maybe let's really go way back and maybe start from how you kind of got started and how you eventually ended up with an IPL team.
Well, actually, my first job was in timeshares.
Okay.
I was studying in Mangalore, and I dropped out of college. That's another story by itself. But I'll still tell you, I wanted to do hotel management. But my folks thought I'll end up a waiter in some restaurant,
Right.
or selling tea on the roadside. So they were like, very clear, you have to be a doctor. My brother's a dentist, and he got into dentistry and not medicine because he didn't have enough marks. And I was supposedly a brain. So I think in 12th, I got 98 out of 100, and my teacher said, put it for reevaluation. Why did you lose 2 marks? Okay.
I know that mentality, yeah.
So everybody expected me to go and become a doctor because I had the brains, I was getting the marks, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be a chef, right?
So you want to be a chef itself?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I wanted to do hotel management. I wanted to cook. I love cooking. I love food,
Yeah.
So I thought that's what I want to do. But they forced me to do medicine. So, but luckily, medicine is not like any other college that you can go and get admission. You have to write an entrance test. So I still had the control to write whatever crap I want so that I don't get selected, right?
Right.
So I ensured I don't get selected. And then they said, okay, what do you want to do? So no hotel management. I said, okay, then let me do BBA and I'll do an MBA and figure out life. They said, okay. And they said, they've enrolled me in a college in Mangalore because my brother was there. And they said, you are going for BBA. Only when I went into college, I realized I joined microbiology and not BBA, right? They still wanted me to be around medical profession.
So not so much control then.
Yeah, I didn't have much control, which is, I guess, why I've been so rebellious, right? And first year of annual exam, they gave me a test tube of urine and said, check if the patient's pregnant, right? And I knew right then, right there, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I never went back to college, and my folks got to know a year later.
Oh, a year later.
Yeah. And so I took up a timeshare job, which was incredible because you were selling stuff that doesn't exist, right? So you take money from somebody and promise holidays for the next 30 years, but they give you money today, right?
Yeah.
So I learned sales as a skill, right? Communication, how to talk to people, right? And I think that has been very essential in my life. That foundation kind of was the foundation on which I built everything else. Because I think everybody is actually a salesperson, right? People look down at salespeople, and you'll see boards in buildings that says salespeople not allowed and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, all of us are salespeople, right? You want to convince your wife to go to a restaurant where she wants to go somewhere else. You're actually selling your restaurant, right? Every decision, everything that you're selling to somebody, right? But if people do a proper sales job, I think they will first learn rejection there. Right? Especially if you're doing door-to-door sales, right? You need to have the door slammed on your face. And only then will you be comfortable with the word no, right? If everything you touch turns to gold, the day it doesn't, you will commit suicide, right? So I think that foundation was very essential for me. And that's how I ended up here today, right? On this table and this podcast.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting topic and an interesting way to look at things, because I think I was talking to someone, not sure either over Instagram or just pinging someone, and I was giving a talk actually as part of this university, and the question was, how do I how do I convince my parents if I need to get this sort of sales job in Chandigarh? They don't allow me to go there, so how do I get that job? So the simple answer is what you said. You first crack the first level of sales, which is to convince your parents.
Correct.
You figure out what works, or maybe do something that eventually gets you there, and then you work around that, and you kind of think on your toes, right? So it is one way to look at things, and at the same time, if you are maybe not set out to also fail, in the sense that you, like you said, you have some doors slammed in your face, then you realize, okay, it's not always going to work my way, and things are just not going to, I think, and especially at the young age, it kind of really sets the tone and the bar for you, and you kind of know, okay, this is what real world expectations are. So the question is, how can one who has no experience, and especially in your situation, you didn't even complete your education, how did you end up with a job? I mean, how did you really put yourself out there and get there? Because if you go into an interview, the first question they ask is, hey, I don't see any experience. But so the question is, hey, give me some experience so I can maybe gain some experience, right? So,
see, the beauty about experience is you can get it, anybody can get it, right? Today, pretty much every company takes interns, okay?
Yeah.
And if you go to some company and say, I want to work for free, right? I want to learn, I want to do whatever odd jobs, right? Most people will let you, right? Very occasionally will people say no, because they're probably in a high pressure job and they don't have time.
Policies and whatnot.
And they don't have time,
Yeah.
right? But you can gain experience. And if somebody says, I don't have experience, I don't know how to get experience, then there's some serious problem, right? Because I've done things like I've been a cashier in a supermarket. I've tried different things, right? So you can go and work anywhere if you want to work, right? If the idea is to learn and not about earn, right? Then you will get a job.
Yeah.
The problem starts when you say, first day, I met so many youngsters, first job, they're coming, they want to know first how much they'll earn, when is the holidays, what is the working hours,
Yeah.
You're already putting conditions, right?
Yeah.
And you're not even asking about, what can I learn, right? So that's the difference between people who make it and those who don't, right? And so experience is something that is available for everybody, right? See, and when I was young, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to
These
information
resources
and technology,
yeah.
right? So bulk of our reading was done in libraries, right? So for me, at that age, whatever I learned was harder than, say, for you or somebody else today to learn, because it's available, right? Today, you get free courses from Wharton, Harvard for free,
Yeah.
right? You just need a phone with an internet connection and you can learn anything you want. So if today you decide, I want to learn how to play the guitar, you don't need to go find a teacher. You Google it and you learn it, right?
Yeah.
So I think first you need to have that interest to learn, to develop, right? You need to have that curiosity of why, right? Why is something happening? Why can't it happen some other way? And if you don't have that, right, I don't see you moving forward at all.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think any interview where if people are asking you about your education and those kind of stuff, I think you should anyway not go to a job like that, because really that doesn't matter, right? If you have come from one of those fancy B schools, yes, there is some value added to it, which also I don't personally add any value to it. All I do know is they have a good network, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, they don't have anything else, right? What is more important is what will you do for me, right? And that's what you need to find out.
Right.
It's like my first interview was for that timeshare company, and all the guy asked me was, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And I just told him about myself, and then he said, okay, come and join next day, right? And the next day there were about 30 of us who had joined, and he took us to the beach and he asked, you guys may wonder, what was this interview about? All I asked you was tell me about yourself. He said, yes. He said, if you can't speak about yourself, whom you've known for the last 20 years for half an hour, what are you going to talk about my product?
Right.
Right? And that's basic, right?
Yeah.
Today, tell me which B school do you know that they even teach kids how to face an interview? Nobody does. Nobody prepares you for life, right? They just produce you like a factory. One can put a label, send you out.
Yeah.
They don't prepare you for life.
And they try to put a tag of soft skills at the end and say, you know what, rather than having that part of your curriculum and really complementing what you're learning here, you see that last boot camp or that last month, and they're like, let's just try to shove this down their brains, just teach them how to face an interviewer and see how to crack an interview. Because I've been there. And I did find it a little funny because they expected people who didn't open up through the entire course to suddenly just open up and say, wow, I'm just this amazing person, I'm going to kill it. But yeah, it is what it is, right?
So
yeah.
I'm somebody who believes a lot in learning, but I don't believe in education at all. I don't believe I've used anything that I've ever studied in school or college, right? But everything that I learn every day from people, from books, from experiences is what helps me, and that learning needs to be lifelong, right? But I don't believe in the education system at all. I think it's been ripe for disruption for ages. I thought now they will disrupt, but I still don't see the real disruption
talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that will at least change things. But even otherwise, all the other guys, the private guys, all the funded guys, they're not disrupting education. They're just putting it, delivering it through a different medium. That's it. But they're still not preparing you for life. They're not producing people who can be successful. And that's my concern.
Absolutely. Because the reason why I brought up that instance of this student asking this question was the next question that followed was someone who said, this has been the benchmark, or this is the job to get when you graduate, because when you're in the final year, for the fact that, okay, these are the companies that could probably end up coming to our university. And it's a little funny because that only happens in India, like this whole placement as such in college, because outside you go around looking for jobs, you go to fairs, you go to these conferences, you meet people, you network, it comes down to that. But the question was, this is the average pay that I can look to expect, right? So if I don't get that, should I be taking this up? Which is a very funny thing, because average is just a tag at the end of the day. What you want to learn rather than earn is basically the question. So even if you, I do this a lot with both my podcast series as well as my startup, which is to not look at where this person's coming from, but look at what they can look to learn and mutually benefit each other, right? In the sense that company can grow, at the same time this person can grow too. We have taken on a lot of people who have zero experience in maybe content creation, zero experience in digital marketing. We have even hired people who are in kids who are in their 11th grade. And seeing whether they have some potential, because at the end of the day, it's what you said, whether, if you give them the platform and they can use it wisely, then there's some potential, and that's, going to maybe spawn to so many other things, right? So absolutely, I think opportunities are plenty, and especially in today's day and age, it's just a matter of you having to sit down intentionally, look for something online or get out of the house. Maybe not during lockdown, but yeah, and go around looking for the right opportunities. So yeah, absolutely, I completely concur. So what happened from the timeshare job? How did that lead into other things?
That was interesting. Then those guys disappeared. Then I realized they were fly-by-nights who taken some clients' monies and disappeared. And they used to operate out of the Taj Hotel. And one day I went to work and there was no office.
There's no Taj Hotel. Okay,
no, they were not there in the hall, right?
Yeah.
So they vacated and they've gone, right?
Wow.
But so it was like one of those moments after that of wasting time, like I said, supermarket, this, that, till I realized I want to do something with my life.
Right.
So I was still in a small town, Mangalore, because I'd gone to study there. So I started my bike and came to Bangalore.
Oh, okay.
And said, let me do something, right?
Did you have family members living here? Do you have friends living here?
I did have, but I didn't tell anybody. I just had some guy from Mangalore whom I knew who was living here. He said, come. So I came.
Along.
And I came and I didn't even know where to start, what to do, right? As luck would have it, where I was staying with a few friends, there was an ad of Club Mahindra looking for salespeople, right? And they said, you've done timeshare, see timeshare company, go. So I went for the interview, and went to the reception. It used to be in CMH Road those days, which now I think is a coffee day.
Okay. Oh, that corner building.
Yes, the coffee day. That was the
one right below the metro.
No. It's on CMH Road, bang opposite to ICICI Bank.
Okay, got it.
The other side.
Okay.
Little further from Chumbak, right?
Got it.
So that coffee day was our office, and I went and there were lots of people suited, booted, tie, and people were asking each other, where did you do your MBA and all of that? Because that's what the ad said, right? MBA.
Right.
I was like, oh, I've come to the wrong place. I think I should scoot before they find. So I got up and this guy came out and said, for the interview, I said, yeah. He said, resume. I gave it. And he said, okay, come. I went in and he looked at it and said, okay, so you've done timeshare. So tell me, Darshan, why aren't you wearing a tie? I said, the ad didn't specify. He said, okay, come tomorrow at 11. That was it. My interview was over. Next day, I got an appointment letter.
Oh, okay.
Right. So actually, life has been a series of funny incidents like this, right? I've never had an interview ever, right?
Yeah.
I remember from there I went and joined, I did timeshare, then I moved on to Indian Express, then I moved to Express India within the company, and then We India was the next interview I attended when Channel V was launching their .com. And I remember they called me to the Channel V office. First, they sent one of the VJs to prank me.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't watching television, so I didn't recognize him, right? And then he said, no, the real interview will come.
Yeah.
And the guy came and said, okay, tell me, Darshan, what gives you a high in life? I said, rum and coke. And he said, oh, you drink? I said, yes. He said, every day? I said, yes. He said, okay, come join us tomorrow. Right? So that was it.
It's a nice bar, literally a bar to say.
Yeah. So I've always got jobs like this. After that, pretty much most jobs, I never applied. I never went for an interview. It was either people reaching out and saying, come join us. Right? So I've been fortunate. So I'm the wrong guy to give advice on how to crack an interview or what to say in an interview. Right? All I can say is you be yourself. Right? What is an interviewer looking actually? To see you and your real personality. Right? If you have a gift of gab, show it. If you have skill, show it. Right? I don't think you need to prepare for an interview ever.
Yeah, right? I don't think you can, right? I mean, unless
there are people who do that.
Yeah, right? I know, which is so funny.
That's why there's something called mock interview.
Yeah. It is what it is. It's a mock interview, right? I mean, I can understand some aspects of technicality to a good extent, but you can't prepare for soft skills. You can't prepare to just, have a conversation. It's just something that you've always done or you've never done it.
True.
Right? And I think what you mentioned is so key. If you can't talk about yourself for 30 minutes, I don't think you can sell anything. You can't literally sell yourself, which again...
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a technical skill, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people think that if you're technical, you don't need to have soft skill. You need to communicate. How are you going to get your ideas across? And you sit for a meeting, if you're going to sit like you don't have a tongue, it's not going to work, right? Yeah. So even when I hire people for technical skills or for my apparel brand, I was hiring, let's say, designers. Right. I talk to them first. I don't want to see the designs. Mm-hmm. Designs we'll see later, right? First, can you talk, right? Can you be a part of the team, right?
Yeah, the fact that you are constantly working with others, it's so key that you gel with them and at the same time you communicate what you've done. So it's one thing I constantly tell my team, which is you can do all the work in the world, but if you can't let me know you've done the work, it's basically no work done, right?
Exactly.
It's useless. And oh God, I've had some tough instances in my previous job where I was in the technical field. I was in IT. And I was a product person, so I'd moved on. I was kind of liaising between the tech side and the business aspect. So on one side, you have the business folks who are constantly jabbering and constantly speaking, and then the other side, you have these guys who are constantly clicking and coding and all that. But we've had so many issues and so many instances where it's just miscommunication. The fact that people just weren't able to quickly put their thought across, or the fact that, hey, I've done the work, but why doesn't he know? Like, bugger, it's because you didn't tell him. Like, it's because you didn't drop the mail. Clearly stating you've done it. Yeah, I completely get what he's saying. So, absolutely. Yeah. And so how did you finally end up with the Deccan team?
Well, like I said, everything has been a series of lucky accidents.
Actually, one thing, Darshan, before we get to that, what is the experience jumping from, one industry to another? Because I think you went from timeshare to
So timeshare was very, very early.
Right.
And Then I moved to media, and that also was only because somebody told me I can't. Right? I think from childhood, the best motivator way to motivate me was to tell me I can't do something.
And then revenge.
And then you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So it was by accident where somebody I was going for a sales call with, and he wanted to apply in ESPN. And I was like, can I apply too? And he said, no, it's only for MBAs.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, no.
Where's your time?
Yeah. So I'm like, I have to get into media now, right?
Yeah.
And by accident, I bumped into somebody I had met in Mangalore, and she was working in Indian Express. And I said, okay, I want a job, media, right? Yeah. And that's how I got into media. And in media, again, I wanted to learn, right? So learning has been something that it's like a black hole. It's like an unquenchable thirst, right? It's always wanting to learn new things. So when I was at Express, I learned what is page making, how do reporters work, how they write, when is the story submitted, all of that. I learned a lot, right? And that's when they also did expressindia.com got relaunched, and so I got a chance to work. So when they were looking for volunteers, I'm always the first to put my hand up because there's something new, right? So I learned .com, and I'm talking about 99, okay, when much before India Times and everybody existed, right? We had I think in 98, Express and Kingfisher had a first cyber pub in India where you could drink beer and browse.
Okay.
So we've done some really innovative stuff. So I moved to .com only because I wanted to learn .com. And then when Channel V got acquired by Star TV, and then I was given a choice either to move to India.com, which was Star's major .com investment, or move into television. And I said, I haven't done television, so I moved to television. So every experience has been because I hadn't done it, right? I was with Star, and I left Star to join Harish Bijur because he had started something called Zip Telecom. I think it's much before you guys were born, where they used to have STD booths with a screen, and they played ads there. So they were trying to build a media company using STD booths.
Wow.
So we used to sell ad space, and we did, again, very innovative stuff there. We did things like for, I think, Close Up, we put a sticker that gave mint smell when you spoke. And
wow.
For McDonald's #1, we removed the #1 button and put that logo of theirs.
Right.
So we did innovative stuff, but obviously mobile phones came and STD booths disappeared, and that business went past. But I left a comfortable, established Star Television to join this because I thought I would learn something new, right? And then I tried launching my own television channel. So I launched a channel in Coorg called Channel Coorg.
Okay.
And ran that for about 3 years. We lost a lot of money, learned a lot of lessons. Learning continued, which is when I got a call from an old friend whom I used to know from Nike, and he was with Mahesh Bhupati. They just started a company called Globosport. So he called saying, we're looking for help, we're looking for sales guys, can you come and join? And I was like, no, I'm an entrepreneur now, I have my own television channel, I can't. He's like, okay, come consult, right? So I went to consult, and then what was supposed to be 2 days a week ended up becoming 7 days a week. So I pretty much opened the offices in Bombay, Delhi, hired staff in all offices, which is where I connected back to sport after school days, right? So I was passionate about sport as a youngster, dreamt of a future in sport, and probably dreamt of one day, as a kid, your dreams are not restricted, right? I think as a kid, I dreamt of playing for Brazil, right? Only when you grow up, you understand it's never going to happen, right? But that's the beauty about childhood, right? There is no boundaries. You watch a karate movie, you come out, you think you can do karate.
I'm the karate kid.
Right? So when this sport opportunity came back, I realized I can actually live my passion again, but on the business side of sport. And that was a great experience. And then I went on my own to create a sports management company. We organized Bangalore's first marathon in 2005, the Lipton Bangalore International Marathon, where Lipton launched iced tea across India using this marathon. Okay. Then I created the world's first midnight marathon, which still happens in Whitefield.
Right.
There never existed a midnight marathon in the world before that.
Right.
So we did interesting things in sport, and that's how I got into sport. And we did lots of interesting things. We did darting championships, we did arm wrestling, we did lots of interesting things, which is when Group M reached out and they were looking for somebody to head sports in India for them. And generally what happened in Group M was, it was usually, because it's a media business, it's somebody from a media planning background was always put on sport.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand sport. And what Group M realized was that 9 out of 10 advertisers in sport were actually Group M clients, but they were not doing the deal through Group M, but went into specialist agencies like IMG or WSG. So they wanted a sports person to come on board, and that's how I joined the agency. Again, I had no plans to join the agency. I was an entrepreneur, but when they offered me this opportunity, I knew I'd learn a lot more, because I'm a big fish in a small pond, not even a pond, maybe in a bucket, right? So I'm actually going to go into the ocean. And I learned a lot there, because there suddenly, in a month of me working, I was negotiating a deal with David Beckham for a client. I was doing another discussion with the Barcelona football club for somebody else. So suddenly you had global exposure. You had NBA sent their representative to come and meet me in India, because they were planning to enter into India.
Right.
Okay, so an NBA, our Group M clients in US, so they asked them to come and speak about India, right? So the exposure was different. We were learning lots of new things. I had colleagues, international colleagues, who had all former experience of being in the Aeros team in F1 and all of that. So I learned a lot there, right? I had gone there thinking I will spend the next 3-4 years, because there's so much to learn. But then IPL happened. And Group M were advisors to BCCI, right? So we helped BCCI outreach the teams to team owners, right? So I was involved in helping the sale to the Deccan Chronicle newspaper guys to win the bid. I was in the team that helped them put the bid together, put the team together, right? And we were consulting to them. So we helped them in all of that. We helped them with sponsorships, and they ended up last. And then they told me that we don't know how to run, why don't you come and run it, right? And that's how I left Group M and joined here, only because I knew there's only 8 people in the world who get an opportunity to run an IPL team, right? And even though I had plans and I had dreams of going to Singapore and doing a regional role later and stuff like that, I had to change, you know, when this opportunity came up. That's how I joined these guys. And as luck would have it, we won that year, right? And then the family said, oh, this 45-day tournament's too small a role for you. Why don't you come and run the main business? So I moved to run the newspaper, which wasn't my choice again, right? Because I wanted to be in sport. But then I looked at the learning opportunity, because the newspaper industry is like a very old, antiquated industry. This is a pre-independence newspaper, right? Some of the people in the company had spent more time in the company than I'd spent on the planet, right? So how do you work with those people? How do you get them to respect you? How do you get them to follow your instructions, right? So it's learning, right? We launched new editions in Coimbatore, Kochi. So it was very different experience, right? So learning is what takes me to different places, right? And it's not because I think I want to be there, right? And I think 99% of my life has been just pure luck, being at the right place at the right time, or when an opportunity opens up, putting my hand up when nobody else wants to do it, right? I always believed, and especially when I worked in large organizations, I realized that you're only remembered for 2 things: the problems you create and the problems you solve. Otherwise, nobody remembers you, right? It's a large company, thousands of employees. How will anybody remember you, right? You either create such a big problem that whole company knows you, or you solve a big problem, right? And generally in large organizations, I've seen that there is some job nobody wants, right? Nobody wants to take that responsibility. I always put my hand up, right? Because you know you're going to get a chance to solve some problem, right? And that's how I got where I am, right? We always looking for problems to solve, right? Today, I think big problem I'm seeing is that people with gray hair won't get jobs anywhere, right? I'm seeing job posts, ads that says age limit 32, age limit 38, right? And there's a wealth of experience that people are not getting placed, right? I know some guys who I think are 48 or 50, and he applied for a CEO's job and they told him you're too old. Okay? And which I think is the next big problem to solve, because you have ill-equipped, under-experienced people now running large organizations with too much money to spend, right? And you can see the results: 300 crore loss and 3 crore revenue, and then you get called a unicorn, right? When I started my career, I was taught the job of a business is to make money from the market and pay your shareholders, right? Today, you take the money from the shareholders and distribute it to the market. I don't know how long this party will continue, but I think that bubble is going to burst. We've seen the dot-com burst. I've been part of that dot-com burst. I've seen India.com splash. When they launched, I think they spent more on the launch day than what India.com, where we were working, had spent in 1 year of operation. Yeah? And where is India.com today? Gone, right? Yeah. Somebody had to write it off.
Right, absolutely.
So I can see some big problems coming soon. And actually this pandemic is going to speed it up.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that you said you can see problems coming up, it's basically, again, avenues for us to solve and to step in and figure out the right ways to get around it.
Correct.
Right. So I had this interesting conversation with, I think the same talk, I don't know why it goes back to the same thing, but about how people get to recognize you, how you get remembered. So you mentioned that it's either you having massive problems created or you solve big problems. I mean, not the same. You don't create a problem then solve it. Mutually exclusive.
Some people do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you're remembered for awkward reasons, if you want to call it that, right? But if you think about it, even the most famous people on earth, there's very few people who transcend generations. If you think about, do you even remember your own grandparents or great-grandparents? A lot of people can't even, tell us what their names are, which is very funny, right? Because it's your bloodline and irrelevant of what they've done, there's a good chance, it's going to be forgotten. But having said that, the mark or the impact that each person has, at least with those inner circles or maybe 1 or 2 circles itself, is enough for you to be remembered through their lives, right? So that's a very, I'm not sure where I picked this up. I think it's over a particular video or another podcast itself. But the fact that it's not just about you transcending generations, but you can get in or leave a mark by others talking about you, or at least the work that you have brought to the table. The effort, maybe the learning too, itself is a way to be remembered, at least no matter how short-lived or long-lived that is, right? That's one way to look at it.
I think there's a problem with that whole thought process itself, right? 95% of the entrepreneurs say, I want to do something that will help me be remembered. I want to leave a legacy behind, right? Which is all great, right? You want to leave a legacy, open an orphanage or something in your father's name, everybody will remember, right? But the reality is, if you go back to basics, right? What like the Bhagavad Gita teaches you, right? You have control only in what you can do. Exactly. Don't look at the fruit, right? That's not in your control. Correct. So I think if you do what you were meant to do and what you've come to do it well, right? That's it, right? I have a policy that leave everything better than you found it. Okay? In whatever way, small way you can find it. Right. You make your difference. If it snowballs into something, right? I remember when I first got my first iPhone, you had to go to the grey market because it wasn't available in India and buy it. Yeah. And I used it and I was like, gosh, why didn't they make a phone like this before? Yeah. Because it was so easy to use. Right. And so uncomplicated.
It's a problem that he solved.
Correct, right? Yeah. Before that, there didn't exist a product like that, right? You had those chunky keyboards and a tiny screen, and you're trying to have a conversation in that BlackBerry chat. So, if you solve problems, right, your legacy will get built automatically.
Exactly.
Right, but that's not
in your control.
In your control.
Exactly.
See, half of these people commit suicide, and all of that are people who are focusing on that, right? They're so caught up with what people think
outcomes
about me, right? Rather than what they think about themselves, right? It's like, I believe the most addictive substance on earth is not alcohol, not cigarettes, not drugs, it's fame. If that bug bites you, you're gone, right? You want to be known, you want to be famous, right? Exactly. Big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Our conversation ended on that note, which is basically going back to being a stoic and not really having to worry about the outcomes, but you do what you can rather than having to worry whether this is going to leave a mark and, leave a legacy. Because if it does, great. But then at the end of the day, people who you have maybe touched or impacted, they'll remember you anyway. And it all comes back to that.
It doesn't matter even if they don't.
Exactly.
After you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether people remember you, don't remember, what difference it make, right?
Right.
It's like that. There's a very famous story. I don't know where I read it, but I'm sure you would have read it too. It talks about this tourist who's wandering around photographing, and he sees one guy carving a Ganesha statue from stone. And so the guy says, very nice, very pretty. And the guy says, no, it's not done. And he removes and he starts fresh. When it looks very pretty, this guy is really impressed. The guy says, not done. He says, wow, what's the problem? He says, the small crack here, it's not nice. He says, where is it going to come? It's going to come on top of a tower, which is some 50 feet high. And it's going to be up in that gopuram of the temple. So this guy says, nobody can see it. He says, but I can. I know. I made it. I know it's flawed. Right? So the guy makes a brand new one because he knows it's not perfect. Right? So if you focus on what you're doing, not be bothered about others think, whether others will notice, not notice. And also see, people are so full of themselves that they really think people are thinking about them all the time. Nobody's bothered about you. Right? You live, you died, people don't care. People will talk for 2 days. Even your friend circle will say sad, this happened. After that, they're busy with their own life. Everybody has their own
worries.
Crap to deal with, right?
Their own fame. I mean,
So people don't have time for anybody.
Absolutely.
Nobody really has time for anybody. And nobody really cares.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and that actually is a good segue into what I think we spoke about for a long time, which is basically adaptability and how you really keep up with, just maybe things didn't go according to plan. It could be outcome based. It could be just you putting in the effort and then you realize maybe the market's not ready for it. Maybe, I think you mentioned something where you had an idea which was way ahead of its time and it just didn't happen. And I know a couple of people who have done that too. For instance, I have this family friend who started a gym, and an amazing gym somewhere in a small town in Kerala. It's amazing. There's air conditioning and it's just incredible. I mean, it worked really well in Bangalore back then. This is about 20 years ago. So you can imagine. And they just pumped in a lot of money. It just didn't work because maybe way ahead of its time. At the same time, maybe not smart enough to really, bring it in.
That is not way ahead of its time. That is bad business decision.
Could be, yeah.
See, a lot of failed businesses is because they have an idea, they do it because they want to do it, and not because there's a market for it, not because the market needs it. Right? If that chap had spent even half a day or a couple of days talking to people, understanding what did they need, right? He would have built something successful, right?
Yeah, it's a little funny because I did have a conversation with him around this, and the problem was he was talking to very like-minded people who all believed in the concept or the idea, but that's just one aspect of it, right? If you haven't put in that sort of thought into understand what the masses, want, because you're not trying to keep it very limited and very novel and only have maybe 10 members per year. You're trying to keep it for the masses. So yeah, it comes down to that, and I get what you're saying. So yeah, so maybe on the adaptability front, what have you seen having to move from something like Deccan Chronicle to I think the company that you recently started with, Milind Soman as well. We'll get into that a little later, but what have you seen the last decade or so in terms of keeping up with just things that life's throwing at you and these companies throwing at you, and just being let's say very quick and nimble on your toes?
It's like I said earlier, it's all about learning, right? So my journey has been because I wanted to learn, right? And where I see opportunity, I think there's a problem, nobody is doing something, I try and do something there. Yes, some of them have been way ahead of its time. A lot of my ideas, actually 90% of my ideas have been way ahead of its time. I kind of blame it to my genes, I guess. I was premature born. So I came in a hurry, so everything I do in a hurry.
Right? Okay.
It's like even my television channel, right? It was launched at an era when there was no distribution. right? We used to send the 8 o'clock news in CDs with bus drivers, and each cable operator in different towns had to collect it and play it correctly at 8 o'clock. Right? Synchronized, right? Because even the networks weren't connected. Cable operators weren't connected, right? Today, we're all connected, right? Today, you can build a channel cook again and totally digitally.
From home.
From home,
literally,
right? So, you need to sometimes wait, right? But then, like they say in the startup world, timing is everything, right? If you're not embarrassed with your first product that you put out, you're already too late, right? So if you sit waiting for the right moment, right, product and right packaging and everything, you're already too late, right? Yeah. So you need to put it out there. The market needs to tell you what they want or don't want, what you need to change, how do you need to modify, right? It's like when I launched the organic yoga brand, right? With Milind, we launched it as a women's wear brand, right? We noticed a problem that Indian women have different body types, different environments, and different sensibilities. And there was nothing being made for them. What is being pushed to them saying is sportswear by all the large multinationals was nothing but synthetic polyester stuff, which Indian women didn't want, right? Our sensibility is to cover up the layers. In the West, they want to show off the assets. So they need something that's sticking so you can see. Here, they don't want to show it, right? There was nothing for them. And we spoke to hundreds of women and they said, I heard feedbacks like, I spend more time pulling my t-shirt down than focusing on my workout. Right. So we launched the world's first fitness kurti. Okay. People told me it won't work. I had colleagues who had like 30 years in the apparel industry and they said, what a stupid idea. If it was such a good idea, somebody would have thought of it. And why doesn't it not exist? I said, maybe because nobody thought, right? He refused to believe it will work. To date, it's our best-selling product, right? When we launched organic clothing, obviously, again ahead of its time, people asked, I don't have to eat my t-shirt. Why do I need organic and stuff like that, right? But some people who liked it, they loved it, right? They came back to us and said, can you give us organic yoga mat? I was like, organic yoga mat? Okay, let's try and solve the problem. Right. So as we spoke to them asking, why are they asking for this? We realized that most serious yogis hated those synthetic mats that you get in the market. They said, early morning when I lie down on it, that fumes go into my nose. It's bad, right? And I can't. I need something organic, something natural, right? So we went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, what can we do? And then you go back and see, everything is there in our culture. Our culture has everything. It's just that we've embraced the West so much that we've forgotten our roots, right? So we realized that people used to sit on chatai earlier, right? Every house had a mat that they used to roll out and used to sit and then roll it out. So we took that and we started experimenting with that as the starting point. Today we have probably the world's largest collection of organic yoga mats. We have mats made from darba grass, from elephant grass, from banana fiber, jute, cotton, the works, right? And now we have people who buy it. We have dealers in Norway, UK, Japan, Australia, US, Germany, Poland, all around the world, people buy. And how did they find us? We didn't market internationally at all. Yoga teachers come to Rishikesh or to Mysore to do some course. They pick up one of our products, go back, they love it, then they write to us, pleading us to give them, our products so they can keep in their studio, right? So, speaking about culture, right? Most of our products we solve like that, right? Everybody talks about dry fit and anti-odor and this is antimicrobial finish. Nike, Adidas, all have some coined terms. What are those? Have you ever wondered what is those antibacterial treatment? It's nothing. It's just a silver wash. Okay, they wash the fabric in a silver solution.
Have those molecules in the
And if you actually think about it, we've had that knowledge and that technology for hundreds of years. If you go to your hometown and check in the cupboard, there will be one of your grandmother's sari still there. How is that sari alive for 100 years? Have you asked yourself?
It's probably because of some wash or something that...
Nothing. There has jari work, right? Those threads, they are silver threads. And silver is antimicrobial automatically. Because of that, it prevents anything from attacking that sari. So we've had this technology for 100 years. Now all these guys patent it and they call it's their
term it,
right?
Yeah.
We always had stuff, right? So similarly, when our customers asked us, we want organic bottles, we don't want plastic bottle. We were always using copper in our culture, right? So we launched copper bottles and people loved it, right? So most of the learnings has happened only because of the readings and trying to, dig for answers, right? Is there a better way to do it, right? And that's probably how my last 2 decades has been. Today, when I see things like performance marketing, I get very irritated, right? What is performance marketing, right? Marketing should perform. Marketing that performs is all that matters, right? Today, they've created all these jargons and they've broken down a position into smaller positions, right?
And overcomplicating things, right?
Overcomplicating, and also, I think they're trivializing it, right? In the early days, there used to be an art, there used to be a science behind doing things.
Right.
Today, they've kind of made it very, very superficial. They actually don't dig deep into anything, right? There's no thought process. There's no serious thought put into anything.
Yeah, and it all goes back to what you said earlier, right? It's a valuation game now. Startups have just become about not about making money or making profits, but more about taking someone's money and looking at it, just distributing it and just making revenue, just a little bit of revenue, and we're good. You're making money, but are you actually making money? Probably not, right? And
then you have deals like the Flipkart deal happens, and again it fuels more people. Who made money in Flipkart other than the Bansals? Nobody ever made money, right? Stupidity, right?
I think it exists. I think it's just eventually going to be bought over by Amazon, and that's what the end game is, and that's what they're looking for.
Why would Amazon want to buy it?
That's the funny thing. All these actions are probably not, moving them away from that too. So,
in my book, I talk about the cockroach mode.
Okay.
I think that's the next phase of startups, right?
The cockroach mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
So today there is a jargon called cockroach startups.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay.
They're saying, so there are some investors who say we will never invest in unicorns, we only invest in cockroaches. Right?
That's the opposite of a unicorn. Okay.
So what is a cockroach, right? It is a creepy worm that lives in dark corners, right? But it's a very frugal and very survival oriented creature, right? They say it's the only creature that will survive a nuclear blast. Right?
Yeah.
Apparently, you can cut off the head and it'll still be alive for 10 days.
Wow.
Okay.
That I did not know. Okay, but yeah.
So it's that resistant to death, right? So that's the kind of startup that will survive and thrive, right? People who don't have fancy foosball of tables in their office and sleeping pods, right? They're frugal. Every penny is looked at twice. They keep a low profile. They work and they make it happen, right? And I think the pandemic now teaches us that we need to adapt that mode in all our lives right now. I think the next 2 years are all about staying alive because it's going to get worse. People are thinking the pandemic's over. It's not. It's going to get worse.
It's a way of life now. Yeah.
So you need to learn to live with it. You need to now really ask yourself, do you really need all those luxuries, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of things that we thought of was essential also is not. People hoard clothes, right? How many people used any of that in the last 3 months or 7 months, right? So you can do with far less, right? And I think that shift in thinking needs to come. I actually think the pandemic is a brilliant time to start new businesses, start new stuff. Actually a lot of great things have
started,
have happened only in times of difficulty, right? Lot of innovations, including modern medical science, everything came during extreme stress, right? So I think it's just right. And a lot of companies are going to shut now, and it's good it shuts because it'll give space for better innovations and better run companies, right? A lot of venture capitalists that I'm in touch with stopped doing new investments now because they're trying to save the old investments, right? Because those companies are struggling.
Right.
Maybe they need to cut the cord, and cut their losses and say, okay, bad mistake, but let's learn and not put good money behind bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people were just hiring for no reason. Like I said, one job which one person could do, they've hired 5 people to do it, broken it down, stupidity.
And then basically brought in 5 foosball tables to
keep them happy and engaged.
Yeah. And what you mentioned earlier also is such a key aspect of any business or just life in general. I mean, one aspect could be you coming out successful. The opposite is not really failure, it's learning, right? I mean, if you come out of that looking at it as just a learning experience, I think you can always get back in the game, and it's easy for you.
I think it's essential to fail regularly, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you lose track of reality.
It goes back to your sales story itself.
Right. You need to stumble every now and then. It's like much before the lockdown, I was talking to an entrepreneur. We were exploring a position for me in his startup. So he asked me, which company do you think will survive in the next 20 years of those that are existing today? And I told him only the ones who are willing to reinvent themselves, right? Because if you look at the top 20 companies today, they didn't exist 20 years ago. There was no Google, there was no Facebook, most of these companies didn't exist, right? The smarter ones are the ones who will destroy themselves before somebody else comes and destroys, right? Which is what I call unlearning, right? It is the first and the most important task. We all pick up stuff from everywhere, everybody we meet. All our lives we've picked up stuff and we carry it with us, and that makes our personality, right? Once in a while you need to do that cleansing. You need to eradicate everything you have and learn new stuff. Or else there's going to be no space for new stuff because your previous experience, your biases, all of that will come, right? That people don't do.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why things are not happening for them, right? Because they're doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? It's the same with companies. You did something, now it worked, great. But that doesn't mean it'll work forever. Yeah. So you need to reinvent yourself. I remember my first phone was a Nokia, right? It was the world's largest selling phone brand. On one edition of Time, the cover was Nokia. Phone was the cover of Time magazine.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Today, where is Nokia?
Right.
It's not that it was bad technology. It was not anything. It's just that they stopped reinventing. They thought they've cracked it. Right? Now just keep manufacturing the same.
The same thing.
They didn't move. Right? So we've seen in our life so many businesses that we were used to, which if you would ask me 20 years ago, would Nokia go out of business? I'll say impossible. Right?
Yeah.
They're number one here. It's like today asking, will Apple go out of business?
Yeah.
Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
It depends on what the team at Apple is doing today.
Yeah.
Right? How are they reinventing themselves to be ready for tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's like you're a football fan, right?
Yeah.
Who will score a goal? The guy who's got the ball or the guy who's going to be where the ball is likely to come? Right? You need to go where the ball is likely to come. You can't stand here and say, hit the ball to me, hit the ball to me, right? You're not going to win, right? You have to run to where you know it's likely to go. So where the world is headed, nobody knows, right? Because things are changing so quickly. But it's changing because somebody is doing something, right? Which means somebody is already saying, I don't know where it's going, so let me try and steer it this way. Right. It's like Google, for instance. 2022, cookies will disappear out of Chrome, right? They're already preparing. They're doing research. They're trying different, they're preparing for a cookie-free
environment,
era, right? How many people are? 95% of the businesses that are today surviving on tracking will disappear, right? It's coming, but people are like, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Right.
There may be no bridge, right?
Totally.
So that reinventing yourself, how do organizations unlearn what they've learned? How do they destroy their existing business model? Are the ones that will survive and thrive and grow. They are going to be the next big companies. The ones who are stuck, saying it's working, don't fix something that's not broken, will disappear because somebody else will come and break it for you.
Right. Yeah.
And if you, throughout history, Blockbuster, every business that you see, right? Kodak, so many companies.
Leaders,
right?
who were leaders.
Who were leaders, right?
Yeah.
See, today you're using Nikons and stuff like that. How long can they survive? When your mobile phone can do everything better than what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to carry, it's more cheaper, it's easier to maintain.
It's a camera on you all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's evolving also, right? The camera phone from last year to today, changing, right? Everything is changing, right? So whether we like it or not, the devices around us are all becoming smart, right? Few years from now, you'll only have smart TVs, smart refrigerators. Your refrigerator will order milk on its own. Your washing machine will order the detergent on its own, right?
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And if you've been following, Amazon already launched a button that you can put on your washing machine. I don't know if it's available in India, but it'll automatically reorder.
It died and I've seen that, right?
So it's coming, right? Google search, for example. How long will you think you'll type? You're going to say, Alexa, book my ticket, right? Alexa, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Or Siri, what does this mean? Or Google Assistant, what does this mean? It's coming. The future is that, right? Today, a lot of my podcasts that I listen to, I just ask Alexa, play, and it plays, right? I don't need to go and search, right? So how many businesses are preparing for it, right? Very few. Because every business, I think, should have one innovation department, right? Where they invest in experimentation. Because the main team is busy running the business. They're fighting fires every day, right? And if you see all the successful companies today, Google, Twitter, Facebook, all these guys have innovation teams.
Right.
They have entrepreneurs inside creating new businesses, new ideas. Not everything will take off. But one clicks. They are mini VCs themselves, right?
Yeah.
And those are the kind of companies that will survive.
Right.
And similarly with people, right? Companies, nothing but people, right? So who are the people who will survive, right? Are guys who regularly reinvent themselves, who learn, who keep upskilling, who keep unlearning, who are prepared for being relevant in the future.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be a dinosaur.
Right. So actually, another thought I had here was you talking about companies inventing, or rather having an innovation department itself, right? What are your thoughts on these companies acquiring other companies? Because with an example like Facebook, they now have Oculus, they have Instagram, they have all these other, basically subsidiaries or just other companies they've acquired, and now it's a big umbrella. Is that a way to go to?
That's a shorter cut to do it, but for that you need to have money.
Right?
If you have the money, then why build when you can buy? Right? Because somebody else has spent the time building it. If you like it, you can buy it. You get the team also, and it works for you. But not everybody has that kind of money with them, right? Today, 90% of all advertising spend is getting sucked by Google and Facebook. So they are cash-rich companies, right? I remember when in the early days, in my newspaper days, we used to talk about Times of India like that, saying in their old office they probably have gunny bags of cash, right? Because they're minting so much money, right? So it's similar, right? There should be some bank somewhere in the world who's telling Mark Zuckerberg, please don't deposit anymore, I have no place, right? Please withdraw some money, right?
Take it away.
So these high cash generating businesses can afford to do it. But if you don't have that kind of cash, right? If you're only going to do it on debt, then you're committing suicide, right? Because what most people forget is valuation, top line is vanity, right? Bottom line is sanity, but cash flow is reality. Businesses die because of cash flow issues, not because of anything else. So if you don't generate cash regularly, your business can't survive because you need to spend. If large infrastructure companies, all of them are debt ridden. Why? because they're not generating enough cash to even service the loan, right? Banks are failing. Why? Because they're not able to get the money back from these lenders, right? So the challenge is, if you don't have that money, then you need to be frugal, get into the cockroach mode, set up teams internally, get experts to come, help you build it, tie up with universities, with institutions which give you academic brain power, co-create stuff, right? Collaborate and build.
Right.
Otherwise, you will die.
Yeah.
It's like Tata Motors now announced they're spinning off their car passenger vehicle business into a separate business, and they're looking for partners, right? So because it can't happen,
Right.
it's pulling the whole organization down.
Right.
So that's the way forward, and where we're headed is going to be demonstrated by this approach. Which company is willing to accept that the market's changing? It's like Jeff Bezos is very famously known for writing to his employees saying, I don't know when Amazon will shut, right? So he's always asking the team to come up with what can we do to make ourselves relevant? How can we stay relevant? So he wants to destroy whatever can come and destroy himself.
Before allowing someone else to do that. Right?
Which means he's always going to be one step ahead, right? So if something is not right and somebody else is thinking Amazon is not doing this correctly, I can fix it. Some team internally is already thinking that, right? So businesses like that will survive,
right?
But if you don't have that vision, if you can't see, then you have a problem. Then you can be a small business, survive. You can have what you call lifestyle business, maintain a decent lifestyle with it.
Right.
But you can't run a business that will make an impact.
Right. And so actually coming to your book, you mentioned, I think, pretty much everything of the adaptability, the lockdown, and just personal stress and tension and the suicides and all of that too. Is there any other particular reason why you got around to writing this? And is there any other aspect that you'd like to talk about from the book?
So why I wrote it, I already shared, right? What do I hope this book will do is get people to think, take a breather, understand what is important, right? It's not just for people, like I said, it's for organizations too, right? How can they learn to reinvent their own game, right? I talk about introspection in the book and how important it is, right? Because there are a lot of hard questions we never ask ourselves, and because we don't ask ourselves, we never act on them. So if we are so shy of facing the truth in our own lives, in a large organization, you have the anonymity of teams and departments. You're never going to ask those questions, right? Which is why organizations die, right? Because people don't want to ask the hard questions. People don't want to face the truth. They try to wish-wash, cover it up, put the dust under the carpet and let's behave like it doesn't exist. But it's not going to help, right? And it's the same with people, right? If you ask people, 95% of people know what they need to do, but they don't do it.
Right.
They all know what is important, but they don't do. Right? And some of those questions they don't want to ask. They don't want
for so many reasons, right?
It's like now, when I was forcing some of the people in my building to take the COVID test, BBMPs come to my building, put up a camp, and they're doing free tests, which otherwise will cost you money. A lot of people don't want to take the test because they're scared of the result. It's so funny, right? If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Just because you got to know, it doesn't suddenly going to change anything, right? But that's how people live their lives. They behave like something is not there. And they think it's not there. Not going to happen, right? And that is, I think, the crucial thing that people and organizations need to do, right? Especially leaders, right? It's like, if you ask me, the whole HR department should not exist. I think it's a redundant department. How can you outsource hiring? How can you outsource to another department? If you are a sales head, you need to hire your salespeople. If you are the marketing guy, you need to hire your marketing team. If you are the technical guy, you need to hire. HR can't hire, right? And if you can't work with your team, what will HR come and solve the flow's problem? When you should sit down and sort it out in your team, right? What will HR come and do? If the CEO is not in touch with the ground force, that means he's not in touch with reality. Right? He doesn't know what his business is doing, what is the realities his team is facing. So how is he making decisions? Right? So I think this whole HR function itself shouldn't be there. That department shouldn't exist. It's a waste of space. They add zero value, right? And what do they do?
We just lost a lot of HR viewers here.
It doesn't matter. I'm hoping you'll get some hate mail. Right? Any visibility is good visibility, right?
Yeah.
But think about it, right?
Right.
Practically, right? You can't have departments just for the sake of department. Every manager should be a HR manager. Everybody should nurture his team. Every CEO should be equivalent to a HR head. It can't be a separate function, right? If you are the head of the organization, you have to play the HR role yourself.
Yeah.
Because people make your business.
Right.
There are no people, there's no business.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of companies that have pretty much shot themselves in the foot because they have hired someone as a temporary fix, or let's just get someone who has the technical know-how, get them on board and they'll help us out and we need this. But they don't realize that person's being hired to be a manager who has to work with other people. And like you said, you can't just be someone who has the technical skills or know-how. You can't, liaise. You can't really interact with people, and that, you don't see the issues then, but you eventually, when you have hired 5 of these kind of people, it's basically you're setting yourself up for failure, right?
See, also, while you scale, it's a very unfair thing to happen, but sometimes the team that got you from 0 to 10 is not the team that will get you from 10 to 100.
Right.
So a lot of times it looks cruel, saying these guys were there for you when you had nothing, right? But not all of them will have the skill set that you need at a different level.
Correct.
Right? And not all of them are ready to reinvent themselves also for it.
Okay.
In this lockdown, a lot of organizations I know are shutting and letting people go. We also let lots of people go in many of our companies, because not everybody is reskillable, right? Because how do you do it? Because that interest should come from themselves, right? And businesses should have the money to pay, right?
Right.
So that, outlook that, people talk a lot about culture. They say culture will eat strategy for breakfast and all those jazz. But culture is something that also has to evolve. You can't say this is my culture.
Right.
Right? It's like I have a chilled out atmosphere, I have foosball table, I have this, people can do. Yes, great. But at times you need to change. You have to move, right? You can't say this is how I am and this is how I'll always be, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that adaptability is very important, right? I believe Darwin's theory was not survival of the fittest. I think he said the only species that will survive is the one that's most adaptable. Because change is constant, and that's going to remain constant. So if you don't evolve, you will die.
On that note, the fact that simply learning is just not enough, because like you said, you need time to think and introspect as well, right? Because if you need to keep up with either your belief system or just keep up with the game itself, a lot of people think, oh, if I just listen to 100 podcast episodes or I read 10, 20 books, that's going to get me from point A to point B. It won't. Because at the end of the day, you're not giving yourself enough time to analyze, introspect, understand how to use this. So I got into this habit of consuming and reading a lot of books. So those words don't scare me. At least I've reached that point now, because up until last year, I probably read about a book or 2 books on an average per year. I'm talking, now I've gotten this voracious reading habit, and I'm reading maybe a self-help book in the morning. I'm listening to an audiobook and probably ending my day with a fictional book and all of that. So that's great. But initial days, I was like, I need to get to a point where I can quickly finish, maybe 10 books this year or 100 books this year, because you see all these, videos out there. People are like, I'm killing it. Do you want to know how I finish 50 books a year? I'll show you how. That's great, but you're not giving yourself enough time to understand how you can utilize what's in the book, because you might have written this book you obviously wrote it from your perspective. But the way we look at it and the situation we are in is very, very different from where you're coming from too. So I think that introspection definitely goes a long way, right? You need to really sit down and let it sink. And of late, I've been taking a lot of walks just on my own, really allowing it to sink in. It's called, I don't know, people call it active meditation, but whatever. That's just, again, a jargon. No one cares. But if you can really be alone with your thoughts and think it through, I think that goes a long way, right? I think that's...
See, actually, people have a misconception about what learning is, right? Like I said, the first step of learning is actually unlearning, right? Which is where you first eradicate your thought process, your belief system, right? And you're open to fresh learning, right? Like you said, I come from a different point of view, you come from, that's your belief system. First, you need to remove that thought itself, saying, he has a different experience. No. What is he telling me, right? Second, input should always be 1/3 of the output. So if you're reading in something, you need to, if you, let's say, spend 1 day to read, you need to spend 3 days to understand it and practice it.
Right.
See, if you don't practice what you read, it's no point reading.
Yeah,
okay.
It's useless. Right?
There's a Japanese word, I just can't recollect now, which talks about people who, is a word for people who buy books and never read them. Okay. I think they should also invent a word for people who read but never practice. It's the same. Yeah. Buying and keeping it and not reading, or buying and reading and not understanding and not practicing it is waste. I don't think you need to read 100 books a year. You need to read a book 100 times in a year. The same book. See, 95% people think, oh, this book, I've read it. Go back and read it. You will see things you never saw the first time.
Yeah. Or like you said, spend 3 days really thinking about what you've read.
Even afterwards, right, no matter, you read a book, go back and read it after a few months, you will learn something new.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
It is the same, right? It's like somebody said, motivation's like having a bath. You need to do it every day, right? It's not like I did it once and I'm good, right? Similarly is learning, right? Every book, everything, any book you take, which was the first self-help book you ever read?
Can't really, maybe, I don't know, I'm not able to recollect.
Book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, did you read?
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah. So any book like that you read, go back and read it again. You will see different perspectives because your life experiences have changed. You have changed.
Yeah.
You are not the same person you were yesterday.
Right.
So what you read 1 year back is gone.
Yeah.
Right? There is a forgetting curve. After a certain time, you forget by default.
Right? It's not unlearning though.
You forgot it. It's worse than unlearning.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to relearn it. Right? See, the best way to remember anything is to teach. Because you learn, you have to understand, comprehend, practice, then only you can teach somebody else.
What's the Feynman technique? Basically, you teach it to someone else and then you kind of,
learned it yourself, right? So, I tell people, don't bother about how many books you read in a year. It really doesn't matter. How many books did you really read, right? And did you put one thing that you read into practice? Right? That's what matters. You can say, I bought this book, it talks about waking up at 4, but if you still wake up at 8, it's worthless, right?
Yeah.
Have you woken up at 4 and seen what it feels like? Right? That's important.
Absolutely.
So, if 10% is input, 90% is output, which is, your reading is the small, easy part. Comprehend it, understanding, putting it to practice, and then going back and reading and seeing what you're doing wrong.
Right?
Yeah. That's important. And I think 95% of the people don't get benefit from like these motivational videos and podcasts and all of that because of this reason.
Mindless consumption.
Yeah, you're driving, you want to listen to some podcast, you heard it, right?
Great.
That's it. By the time you reach your destination, you pull, you're gone. What's the point of it? You could have listened to a music and at least hummed, right? So when I listen to a podcast while driving, I pull over and I make notes.
Make notes, yeah.
Right? Or I dictate it into a voice note because that is very essential. Right? So that is how you need to learn. And if people go back and read just the books they have, is enough for them to develop.
Yeah.
They don't need to buy new books. Right? Problem is they buy, read, it's a tick mark. I've done this. Yeah. Right? It's like a bucket list types, right? I finished.
Right.
Let's move to the next task. Pointless. Don't do it. This is not movie. It's not an entertainment. Right? There are people who watch the same movie 10 times, 20 times. They're not going to see any new result. The end is not going to change. Right? But in the book, every time you read, you learn something new.
Right.
Any book.
Yeah.
Because when you're reading, you cannot assimilate everything at one go. It's not possible. Right? There are people who make notes, put stickers, underline it, go back, do the worksheet, all of that. Most people don't. They just read, finish it.
And I think this goes back to what you said about the education system being a little flawed, right? Because everyone's doing basically that.
Correct.
Read, and it's basically so that you can sit down, give the exam, and you
pass.
You get the grades, and that's pretty much it.
Which is why you don't use anything that you learn.
Yeah. Very honestly, I don't think I'm using. I don't, for the fact. Maybe apart from networking or the people you have connected with, I can't think of a.
Which today there is LinkedIn, there is Facebook. You don't need to go to school or college for that. Right?
Yeah.
You can network anyways.
Yeah. Again, going back to that same talk, I had the student ask me, hey, how did you move industries? Because I was in IT, I was in tech. How did you move into the food and beverage industry? So you just basically put yourself out there and you go and connect with people. So while it might seem like you have to have a proper conference or a meeting or such, you can just basically drop someone a note or drop a mail and you slowly build that connection. And you have those resources available today. You don't need to have formal setups and all that.
5 degrees of separation.
Yeah, correct. Right. Yeah. So, we'll probably talk about how we can meet Obama, but no, I think that was a hot topic, right?
You maybe could.
Yeah. I'm sure we have,
some link.
Yeah, of course. But, this is great stuff, Darshan. And we'll figure out something in the book, definitely. Cool. And we'll...
First read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will come back to you with notes and whatnot. I'll send you voice notes. Perfect. And great stuff. I think that's a good place for us to wrap things up. I think we spoke about a lot of things anyway on the show, but if there's one last thing that you'd like to put out there, and this is something I ask of all the guests.
Read my book. That's all I tell people.
Right.
One thing I do need to share is that people don't invest on themselves, right? And I don't understand why, right? They're willing to spend on clothes, they're willing to spend on haircut, makeup, but they don't invest on refreshing their brain. I've heard excuses like, I'm not a reading type of person. I generally don't read. So if you see the font size, okay? So if you're somebody who gets scared of a book when you see it saying, oh, it's so much to read, you won't be. This can be finished in 3 hours, right? So I've tried to make it as user-friendly as possible, right?
Right.
But people need to understand they need to reinvent themselves. They need to invest in themselves. It's not just this book or a podcast or anything, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody's tuning into your podcast, I'd already like to believe they've taken a step forward to learn something. Right? That is very essential, right? That is to be constant. You need to regularly keep reinventing yourself from what your belief system is.
Right.
Your beliefs can't be constant. You have to detox. You have to shed your thinking, the way you think, the way you look at life regularly. Yeah. And you need to keep allowing newer experiences, newer thoughts, newer truths to enter, right? Truth is at the end of the day just a perspective, right? But if you're stuck with your own version of truth and saying, this is it, right? It's like religious fanaticism, right? Where people say, my God is only God, your God is not God, right? That's like saying, only my dentist is a dentist, your dentist is a fraud, right? Your dentist can't break your teeth.
And your dentist is your brother, so.
Correct, right? So I'm saying, you need to be ready to accept all truths and open to seeing more truths. That's when you will evolve, right? And if they do that, they're going to be happy. And 95% of the people are unhappy because the past looks rosier than it actually was, right? Because they've brushed it up. It's like they see through some filter and say, oh, those were the days. Those were not good days.
Those were just days.
They were just days. They were actually horrible days. We didn't have anything. I remember we used to have dial-up, right? You used to hear it cry, and then connect to the net.
BSNL.
Before you could do anything, it's gone, right? I remember days of trunk calls. If you had to call somebody, and you're talking, suddenly somebody will say, your time's up, which means somebody was listening to your call, right? We had tough days growing up, right? This is a great time. This is the best time, right? And people are scared of the future. You don't know if there is tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, right? So that, if people get that straight, then they're going to be happy people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'd like to end with, people think if they get a lot of success, they will become happy. It's actually the other way around. If you are happy, you will become successful.
Right.
Because happy people attract success, luck, everything. If you're unhappy, you will attract failure, rejection, all of that, right? So if you learn to be happy, you're going to be successful.
Perfect. So yeah, if people have to find you online, where can they look for
DarshanM.com.
Perfect. All right, I think everyone should have that one place, like one, just rather than saying, oh, so it is Darshan M something 77 on Instagram. It is 27 on, but I think it's important to have that too. It kind of streamlines everything. But Darshan, thank you so much for being here. And this is just great stuff. And I think I keep telling this, or rather saying this to all my guests, but we'll definitely have you back. So again, I'm going to extend that to you too. And we'll definitely, have you back. Once we hit that maybe 50 or 100 mark, probably have all the guests back again and see, hey, you weren't the same person you were earlier. You tell me now. Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. All right. That was our show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you even received a semblance of benefit or you found any sort of value in this episode, then consider sharing the episode with your family or friends. Or like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, just simply share it over WhatsApp stories. It's a very simple way to get the word out there. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya, bye-bye.